for more taxes on American business. Fact check this attack for us.
Well, sure. You can go through that tweet, and nearly every argument that the president makes in there is not true. Look, it is true that Amazon has just the effect of Amazon, the fact that, you know, people around the country can order something and have it in 2 days, or in some cases 2 hours. Yes, that has had an effect on retail, but there's plenty of data to show that Amazon has actually created more jobs than it has destroyed. On the taxes, Amazon does pay taxes and pays quite a bit of taxes. There is some frustration among state and local governments over whether or not Amazon is paying city taxes at the municipal level. But does Amazon pay taxes? Of course. I look at this, and based off of the conversations I've had with my sources at and close to Amazon, there's a feeling here that this is just a personal slight. And President Trump's frustration with Bezos, even President Trump admitted himself, it goes back several years. So I don't know if, you know, he feels like Jeff Bezos slighted him. I don't know if he's jealous that Jeff Bezos is the wealthiest man in the world.
But connect the dots for people watching Jeff Bezos right over Amazon, but also over what Trump affectionately referred to as the Amazon Washington Post. I mean, this is a guy who's #1 on the Forbes billionaires list. So
right. So there's Trump's classic anti-media angle here as well. He owns the Washington Post. He's one of the wealthiest. He's the wealthiest man in the world. You know, look, I think if there's anything unique about this attack from the president is that he's finally punching up as opposed to punching down. But look, the big picture here, Brooke, is that despite the report that came out in Axios, despite all of this conversation about whether or not the president of the United States is going to go after Amazon, everybody I've talked to in Silicon Valley, in the VC community, no one believes that Trump is actually capable of imposing significant regulation on Amazon. So this whole thing sort of feels like just a lot of hype, maybe to drive down Amazon's stock price for a few days or a few hours, and maybe, you know, get under Jeff Bezos' skin. But I doubt this is going to do anything to affect Amazon's long-term performance.
Dylan Byers, we want to remind everyone, now that we see you here on TV, check out his new newsletter. It's called Pacific. It covers what's happening in the worlds of tech and media and innovation. Check it out, Pacific. Dylan Byers, thank you so much.
Thanks,
and staying in California right now, in Sacramento, family and friends are saying their final goodbyes to Stephon Clark, the 22-year-old man shot and killed by police officers holding a cell phone in his grandmother's backyard. We will take you to Sacramento, coming up next.
If you or other chronic spine conditions, are you ready to find lasting relief? Call Laser Spine Institute, the nation's leader in minimally invasive spine surgery, to learn how a less than 1-inch incision can have you up and walking within a few hours of surgery, free from chronic back pain, and with no hospital stay and no lengthy recovery.
Call 1-800-347-BACK now for your free MRI review.
Take your first step in joining over 60,000 patients who found lasting relief at Laser Spine Institute.
My boss would send me home because I was in excruciating pain. Going to Laser Spine Institute, I go in, I have the procedure, and walk out a changed person, good to go back to work. It's changed my life completely.
If you've been told you might need neck or back surgery, call 1-800-347-BACK now for your free MRI review.
Laser Spine Institute, a less than 1-inch incision, a lifetime of standing tall.
A pivotal moment, and they're making the most of it.
I was asked if I'd consider running for Congress and decided, hell yeah.
Women running for office in record numbers and winning our special series, Born to Run.
Live tonight, 7 Eastern. Small business. Internet providers promise you a lot. Let's see who delivers more. Comcast Business offers fast gig speeds across our network. CenturyLink doesn't. We offer more complete...
Sacramento, California, hundreds of mourners are gathering for the funeral of Stephon Clark. These are live pictures inside the Bayside at South Sacramento Church. Clark was a 22-year-old unarmed man shot by Sacramento police officers in his grandmother's backyard. The killing has reignited massive protests and national outcry over the deaths of unarmed black men at the hands of police. Emotions have been running high. Angry protests have erupted all across the state's capital, at the district attorney's office, at City Hall, and even at the Sacramento Kings Arena. Team executives and law enforcement have devised a new security plan ahead of the game tonight. A third day of protest is expected. CNN's Nick Watt is outside the church where Clark's services are just getting started, and, you know, people all around the country are mourning for the loss of this man.
That's absolutely right. This service, as you mentioned, about to get underway. Organisers say they were expecting around 500 people. I would guess that we saw a lot more than that. There are still people standing outside in line trying to get in. I spoke to a few of them. Some said, listen, we did not know Stephen Clark, but we feel it's important to come here and pay our respects. Another man, I was asking him about what the mood is in the city, and he said, this isn't a time for politics. This is a time to mourn a young man, a 22-year-old man with 2 kids, who is now dead. Now, the details of the case, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, he was 22 years old. Police were responding to a call of somebody breaking windows in the neighborhood of Sacramento, and they found Stephen Clark in the backyard of his grandmother's house. 2 police officers opened fire, killing him. And he was not armed at the time. He had a cell phone in his hand. And during the protests that we've seen all week at the City Council, at the District Attorney's Office, and the Kings basketball game, a lot of people have been holding cell phones, and his grandmother has come out and said, listen, why didn't you shoot him in the arm or the leg? He was not armed. She says, we want justice. We want justice. And that is what many of the protesters here are saying. They want the officers to be charged with murder. Now, there is, of course, an internal investigation going on into the incident. The 2 officers who were involved are on administrative leave, and the Sacramento District Attorney's Office is going to oversee that internal police investigation. As I mentioned, people here want justice. This is the 3rd man of color who has been shot by police here in Sacramento since 2016. In the previous 2 cases, they were investigated, and it was determined that justified force was used. Now, this case, he was armed only with a cell phone. Now, the Police Officers Association here recently just came out with a statement saying that the officers perceived that he was holding a gun and that he took what they described as a shooter's stance. Many people here do not believe that, think that that is not true, and are challenging that and are asking for a full investigation, asking for justice. But right now, they are inside that church mourning a 22-year-old man who died 11 days ago. Brooke.
Right, today it's about honoring Stephen Clark's life, and I know you'll be watching closely the scene in Sacramento, as we mentioned, especially ahead of the basketball game this evening, and potentially more protests. Nick Watt, thank you so much for that in Sacramento. Back to our breaking news here. Russia retaliating moments ago against the U.S., announcing plans to expel dozens of U.S. diplomats. Will this tit-for-tat continue to escalate? And a heartbreaking story out of California, an SUV plunging over this cliff into the ocean, and among those now missing, a little boy who made national headlines in 2014. You remember this photo? When he was photographed hugging a police officer during a protest in Ferguson, Missouri.